Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today, and gosh, a lot has changed in the last week. Last Thursday, for example, we were looking at the possibility that something may happen in Iran with the gathering of an armada of US troops in the Persian Gulf, and questions were being asked of, is anything going to happen, or is this just something to give the US leverage when it comes to peace negotiations? Of course, over the weekend, an event which is, well, still 48 hours old, huge attack, both the US and Israel on Iran. Many people have been killed, and there's been counterattacks from Iran since that time. And there's a sense that this is just the beginning of something significant and honestly pretty dark. Joining me on the program now, somebody who I also spoke to last Thursday, Dr. Jeffrey Miller from Otago University. Jeffrey, good to speak with you again.
Good to be with you, Andrew.
Firstly, last Thursday we were talking about what might happen. Now it has happened. What do we know? What has unfolded in Iran?
Yes, it was only last Thursday that we were talking all about the negotiations. It feels like a lifetime ago
Yep.
now, geopolitically, given everything that's gone on. I'm reminded of that old quote by Vladimir Lenin: there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen.
Yep.
We're not even 48 hours into this US-Israeli campaign against Iran, and yet they've done tremendous damage. I think that much is clear. I've read figures, something around 2,000 targets have been hit by the US-Israeli campaign. Now, that should not be a surprise.
Yep.
The US is the world's biggest military. Israel's military is the most well equipped in the Middle East. It's not a surprise that, working as a team, they've been able to do as much damage as they can. And of course, the biggest prize for them has been the death of the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. It's breathtaking. He's been in power since 1989, only the second supreme leader, of course, after Ayatollah Khamenei. So we are, I mean, to use that old cliche, we're in uncharted territory
Yes.
now, and it does all feel very unprecedented, and those words are used are overused. But this, I think, what we're seeing over the last 48 hours, it makes last June's 12-day war almost seem like a walk in the park by comparison, because we're just seeing just monumental events going on at the moment with Iran's retaliation against not just the Gulf states, all 6 of the Gulf states, but also Jordan, Iraq, also British bases in Cyprus. It's just incredible what we're seeing.
Let's drill down on the attacks, and the timing significant. It happened during the day. It happened in the season of Ramadan. It was, despite the armada in the Gulf, this was, it seems, unexpected, and a significant attack on some quite precise targets. Talk to us about what has been attacked, what has been destroyed in this first round from the US and Israel.
Yeah, with regards to the timing, it happened just before 10 a.m. Local time in Iran on Saturday morning. Now, Saturday is the first day of the working week in Iran. Significance of that, of course, that people would have been in offices and schools, and there was a school that has been attacked. I think there are competing narratives over how that came about, whether that was a US strike, whether it was Israel was involved, whether it was collateral damage from air defense from Iran's side. It's just unclear at this stage. But what we do know is that attack did happen, and we're looking at deaths of well over 100 people, many of whom are children. It's tragic. But in terms of the targets that have been hit so far by the US-Israeli campaign, look, it's not just Tehran. It's a dozen towns or cities or more across Iran, from north to south, from east to west. It is the likes of state television. It is the headquarters of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, apparently has been completely demolished, and it's the compound of the supreme leader. And as regards to the timing, I thought it may have been really just a move to catch everyone off guard. Everyone was expecting this attack to happen by night. The fact that they attacked during the day, that's one way to have an element of surprise. It's turned out from the reporting that we've had that there was a meeting going on that had many of Iran's top leadership gathered there together in Tehran, and that was the motivation for striking when they did, the
Hmm.
Israeli and US forces. And from their perspective, from the US and Israeli perspective, it was a very, very successful strike
Yep.
because they took out apparently 48 top leaders, and including what they would see and Benjamin Netanyahu would describe as the head of the snake, the
Mm.
supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Talk to us about the structure, though, because not just the supreme leader, but many other significant Iranian leaders were killed in that attack. But this is a multi-headed cobra. The structure that they have, the leadership structure that they have in Iran, this isn't the end of the regime just because the Ayatollah is dead.
No, and we've been talking about this as a possibility for months, for years, and the Ayatollah was the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was not stupid. He had put succession plans in place. Apparently, there was talk of 4 layers of succession in place, and it is very institutionalized
Hmm.
in Iran. Power is very much centered in that Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, which functions kind of as a parallel army. There is a regular army. But then there is also the IRGC, which is more highly trained, kind of like special forces, but
Yep.
a lot more of them. And they also have access to a volunteer paramilitary brigade called the Basij. And they are in every Iranian town and city. So they're very well equipped. And if you think that just killing the top brass will change the regime, I think you're mistaken.
Mm.
I don't think you're going to get regime change by just taking out these top leaders.
Yeah.
You know, Donald Trump likes these performative strikes. He still boasts about how he killed Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, back in January 2020, or how he captured Nicolas Maduro more
Yeah.
recently, a couple of months ago in Venezuela. He loves this. But I don't think that will change the regime. I think Iran's regime is only going to be more aggressive, more angry, more furious,
Yeah.
more resolute after what has happened over the weekend. I think they'll only be more determined to fight back against Israel and the United States. And that is despite being heavily diminished. As I said to you earlier, Andrew, 2,000 targets have been hit,
Yeah.
according to some reports in Iran, and yet they're still firing out drones and ballistic missiles across the Middle East. I think they'll be absolutely determined to rebuild. Once this is all over, they will be heavily diminished militarily, but I think they will be more determined than ever to rebuild and fight again against Israel and the United States,
Of
and they will be absolutely, I think, furious at that point.
Of course, Iran is fighting a war not just externally, and certainly not that many allies in the region after the retaliatory strikes, but also internally with the uprising that we saw in January. We were talking about this on Thursday. Donald Trump says now is the time to rise up as a people. Is this more likely as a result of the bombings than what we were talking about last week? Is this still a possibility, Jeffrey?
Now, that's the great unknown, exactly what will happen internally in Iran. And look, I'm not there. I can't claim to know exactly what the sentiment is on the ground. Do the US strikes and Israeli strikes, do they galvanize support behind the regime, a rally behind the flag? Effect, as often happens
Yeah.
in these kind of situations. If you're being bombed by an external enemy, suddenly you may want to coalesce behind your leaders, however mixed, shall we say, that they have been. Or do you see this as an opportunity to overthrow the leadership, as Donald Trump has suggested? Donald Trump made no uh, he didn't attempt to sugarcoat any of this as a self-defense move, really on the part of the United States. He really made it clear in his video statement that was released on Saturday night New Zealand time that he wanted regime change, and
Yep,
this was going to be the chance that Iranians should seize the opportunity, that they should rise up and overthrow their leadership. Once this initial military campaign had subsided, then there would be an opening, a chance for Iranians to take power, to overthrow, to topple the regime.
yep.
We wait to see which way things will go. I
Of
don't think we can really say at this point one way or the other
of
what
course,
is the more likely outcome.
the US won't want to put troops on the ground, and this one, Israel doesn't have the capacity to do so. But whatever way it goes, there's likely to be escalation. There's likely to be something which spills over into the surrounding regions. We have already seen that, of course, with Iran's retaliatory strikes against, as you mentioned, a range of military bases and in the surrounding countries as well. There is the prospect that the straits will be closed by Iran. That will put a stranglehold on petroleum supplies to the world. How do you see this spilling over? What's next in this volatile space, Jeffrey?
Look, this is already pretty much the worst case scenario in terms of expectations for this kind of conflict. This went very bad very quickly. It went very regional very quickly. In other words, Iran threw the kitchen sink at this. They didn't simply do a performative strike against the Gulf states, against a US base in the Gulf states like they did back in June
Yeah,
when we had a single performative strike by Iran against the Al Udeid air base in Qatar. This time around, they have just unleashed their full arsenal against the entirety of the Gulf states, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates. All of them have been targeted, even Oman,
yeah,
which was brokering those negotiations between Iran and the United States, has been targeted. And that is because they have a port called Duqm. It's pretty much in the central coast of Oman, the middle of the country, and that is used for US military logistics.
yeah.
And most of the targets, or many of the targets, shall we say, have that US military angle, but not all of them.
Hmm.
I mean, you've also had the likes of Dubai Airport, hotels attacked, several airports, Abu Dhabi Airport, Bahrain Airport, Kuwait Airport have all been attacked as well. And the port in Dubai, Jebel Ali, this is one of the 10 biggest ports, container ports in the world.
Yeah.
Dubai Airport, by some measures, is the world's busiest airport. It's the
Hmm.
busiest airport in terms of the number of seats available on aircraft. And it's out of commission. I mean,
Yeah.
just, I don't know, some of these second order ramifications are just enormous. I mean, New Zealand, many New Zealanders fly through the Gulf. It's
Yeah.
one of the main transit hubs for New Zealanders going abroad. And they're basically out of action at the moment. The Strait of Hormuz, there've been at least 3 tankers that have been attacked in some form
Yep.
over the last 24 hours, whether that's been deliberate or whether it's collateral damage. I don't
Hmm.
think it matters overly. Ships are now going to be avoiding that Strait of Hormuz, that
Yep.
very narrow corridor, only 33 kilometers wide at the narrowest point, but that separates Iran and Oman, through which 20% of the world's oil flows, and 3/4 of that oil goes to Asia. In other
Yep.
words, it comes to countries, including New Zealand. I just think some of these ramifications we're only just beginning to uh, see transpire here. And once oil markets really reopen, you're
Mm.
going to see a spike to some degree, probably at least 10%, taking oil past the $80 a barrel mark. When you couple that with a weaker New Zealand dollar, I
Yep.
think $3 a litre petrol is very much on the horizon for New Zealand motorists.
And hey, effectively, Strait of Hormuz have been closed if by insurance premiums going through the roof. Nobody can afford to get the insurance to take a boat through those straits at this particular point. Just briefly on this one, as we wrap up, what has been the international reaction to this? Any surprises for you, Jeffrey?
I think it's been interesting to see Spain's reaction and the European reaction. Uh, Spain has diverged from the likes of France, Germany, and the UK. New Zealand has pretty much gone that that E3 position, as it's called,
Yeah.
UK, Germany, France, where you don't outright support the US actions, but you effectively condone it. Spain and Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister there, have departed company
Mm.
and have condemned the US strikes, the US Israeli strikes. I think it's really interesting to see Spain, a major EU member, uh, parting ways with some of those more northern European states. I think it would be really interesting to see just how Western countries grapple with all of this,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we had negotiations in play last week between Iran and the United States. We were
Yeah.
talking about them, and there was meant to be a meeting in Vienna on Monday. And then once again, Donald Trump has come in over the top and destroyed those negotiations, going for military action. It's exactly what he did last June, but this is just of a completely different magnitude, what we're seeing.
Jeffrey, appreciate your analysis on this. It is a fast-moving target. This will develop, I'm sure, much more in the next 24 hours. But thank you for your insight and your commentary. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Andrew.